Alright y'all, welcome back to the channel and to some more turkey patterning, and today we've got another new shell that we've never tested before, so I'm definitely excited to see what kind of results we can get from it, since we tested one of the other variants of it a week or two ago with some surprisingly decent results for what it is. So I'm definitely looking forward to seeing what we can get from this version of them as well. But as for that shell I've got today, I brought out some of these, the new Hevi-Shot Heavy Bismuth Turkey loads, but these ones are the 20 gauge 3-inch 1¼ ounce payload of bismuth 4s blended with bismuth 5s, moving at about 1,300 feet per second. These are a pretty new load to the market from what I understand from Hevi-Shot, and they are bismuth. They're not the typical Hevi-Shot type stuff, so they are 9.6 grams per cc as far as density goes, so not quite as good as lead. That's why they have to use a little bit larger shot sizes. But last time we tested these in 12 gauge, they were pretty decent for a Hevi-Shot load, which they can struggle from time to time. So we'll see what these 20 gauge versions can do. Since they're pretty middle of the road as far as price goes, I believe these are about $18 a box, 17, 18, something like that. So not too bad, but not quite as cheap as a lead shell would be either. So we'll see what we can get. But as for the setup we're going to run those through, I brought out my Stevens 301 20 gauge. It has a 26-inch barrel on it, and for the choke, we've got a Truglo Headbanger in here. It's a 565 constriction turkey choke. Now, I don't know if this particular choke or constriction is gonna be what these shells like or not, but we haven't tested this Headbanger on the channel in a good while, so I figured we'll start here and see what happens. But as for today's test, everything is set up the same as usual. I've got the turkey target at 40 yards and the chronograph so we can get our velocity from the shells. So let's get you guys to view that target and see if these new Hevi-Shot Heavy Bismuth turkey loads are actually any good in their 20 gauge version or not. I don't know what we're gonna see. Could be rather disappointing, could be great looking. I don't know yet, but let's take our shot and see what we get. Alright, so that shell gave us 1263 through the chrono. The box claim is 1300, so we didn't quite see that, but it is a 26-inch barrel and they could have tested them from a 28 or something like that. Either way, we're definitely not too far off, and 1263 is perfectly fine for what these shells are. But what kind of a pattern did they give us down at 40? Let's go check it out and see what we got. Alright, so now we're down here at our 40-yard paper, and I gotta say, it's not terrible overall. Even though we were just a little bit low on the paper, which is rather surprising because that setup and combination typically hits pretty much dead on the money, we still do have a dead turkey here. There is one right in front of the eyeball and a couple more down the spine that would have absolutely gotten the job done, as well as a bunch down through your body on that particular shot. Either way, if that was centered up a little bit better, yeah, you would absolutely have a dead turkey there every time. Now, initially here, this is a 20 gauge shell with a blend of 4 and 5 shot in it, so we don't have a ton of pellets to work with, and it is only a 1¼ ounce payload compared to something like a 1½ ounce, so it's not going to look super amazing as far as pellet count on paper goes. But honestly, that looks better than a lot of the lead 20 gauge shells that we've tested. And coming into it here, I figured there was a pretty decent chance this was going to be a little bit more on the disappointing side, like a lot of those lead 20 gauge shells are. Now, looking in close here, it's definitely not perfect. We do have a little bit of tightening in our core, but there is a big void right down there in the center of the bottom of that turkey paper, and that's kind of right where the core is. So we do have several voids right in there that are definitely noticeable. We open it up a little bit around the edges, so it does give you a little bit of leeway, but it's not perfectly even either. There's a little bit of splotchy stuff around there. We have a couple of flyers and a couple little strings of stuff over off the left and things like that. So it is not a perfectly even or perfectly uniform pattern. There are little clumps and voids and stuff in it. If you centered that pattern up, are they big enough to really make a massive difference at 40 yards? Probably not, but they are there. And 40 yards would probably be about the limit that I would want to push this particular combination to, because at that range, you do still have plenty enough pellets through the head and neck area to get the job done, but you definitely start to notice some of those voids a little more. Anywhere 30 yards and in is pretty well a guarantee with these, I would say. So overall thoughts, these aren't terrible for what they are. Larger shot sizes like 4s and 5s in a 20 gauge shell can struggle because you just don't have the same payload as you would in a 12 gauge or something. So it could have been a whole lot worse than this. But we'll see as we run these through some different chokes if we can maybe tighten it up a little bit or even the pattern up just a little bit, and we'll see how consistent they are as well. Either way, these new Hevi-Shot Heavy Bismuth turkey loads seem to be some okay okay performers so far. They're pretty middle of the road on price, and I think that kind of matches in performance as well. So far, nothing that's going to blow us away, but not terrible either for what it is. And here's the wad from that shell. Very standard equipment here, nothing fancy to see. There's nothing stuck down in there, but the little tail skirt piece kind of inverted backwards on itself. Not typically something we see, and who knows, maybe that could have contributed to why we shot low on that. I really don't know, but definitely something a little bit funky to see. But I don't think it completely ruined our pattern today. I think what we saw is probably pretty realistic to what these shells can give us. So the wad doesn't look too out of the ordinary from what I would expect to see besides this little tail piece. Alright y'all, well, what did you think about that performance right there? Like I already said, I think it's pretty decent. It's very much a middle-of-the-road turkey pattern when it comes to just 20 gauge in general. A good TSS shell is going to be much better than that at 40 yards. But compared to the larger shot sizes in a lead shell and stuff that we've tested, I kind of prefer that pattern over what we've seen from those lead shells. And coming into it, I didn't really know what we were going to get, because that very well could have patterned just as bad as a lot of those lead shells have for us. So that isn't terrible for what it is. That is a 40-yard capable turkey pattern. Now, of course, would you be better off at 35 or 30 yards and in? Sure, you would have a few less voids in your pattern and stuff like that. So it's not the perfect 40-yard pattern, but at least it's usable, which for a heavy shot load and a turkey load in 20 gauge that has larger pellets like that, that hasn't really been something that we've seen a whole lot of times. So it is decent for what it is overall. But leave your thoughts in the comments down below. Is that about what you expected to see? Were you a little surprised one way or the other? Have you tested any of these new Hevi-Shot Heavy Bismuth Turkey loads, and if so, what kind of results have you seen from them? Is that a turkey pattern that you would hunt with? Or when it comes to 20 gauge, would you still just use a TSS shell or something like that? And what other chokes do you want to see these run through? Let me know all that down below. But with that being said, I've got some more testing to get done for you guys, so I'm going to get back to it. As always, we have the channel Instagram as well as the mailbox where you can send stuff if you'd like. All that information will be in the description down below if you're interested in it, but I'm going to get back to it, so I'll see y'all in the next one.